Hello and welcome back to Transport Fever 2. And the last episode we were developing ski resorts in the Alpine valleys behind this area. And today we're going to have a look at developing a little bit more along the river. What I've done previously with the river, very first episodes, is we had developed a TGV line that's coming from a major city here, which is Limo, running a TGV line, trying to get as fast and direct as possible up the river valley all the way to the city at the center of the map here, Avignon. And since then we've also developed some local trains stopping at what would be small towns along the way. And the next step I'd like to do is start to develop along the river to integrate the little towns and villages that we're going to have along the river, and also develop some of the industry. So as a starter, I have created quite a small village, I guess, alongside the main junction for the auto route along this part of the river. And also started to create some vineyards along these lovely, I'm going to say, south-facing slopes along the river. That's something that you're definitely going to get in every spare little pocket of land in this part of the world. There's a good vineyard, and we're going to connect these up to distribute crops to the cargo station, and the cargo stations are going to take the food all the way to Avignon, all the way down the line. This is where the computer freezes up as soon as I try to enter the city. But Transport Fever is pretty optimized. Once you are in a location, it does speed back up again. So here's our food factory area along our cargo station. And this cargo station is already connecting the farms which I've built in Limo at the other end of the river valley over here. So here's Limo, here are the farms which I constructed in the previous episode with its surrounding villages. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to have a look at coal first. So I've built using a few odds and ends and bits of assets. I've got a little coal loading harbour here along the river. I'm not sure if France has any coal mines still operating like the UK. Which really doesn't anymore. It's one or two small operations here and there. UK tends to bring its coal in from places like South America. So I'm assuming that we've got some barges that come up the river from somewhere like Marseille, assuming this river might be something similar to the Durance or the Rhone. So quite a lot of traffic, river traffic. So this coal just shows up, and I have a small custom industry located, if I could ever find it again, which is here. And this is a freestyle industry which is just producing coal. And what happens is these little trucks distribute the coal that gets unloaded from the boats, comes around by road to our station. And this is where our coal trains will depart from. Now, coal is necessary because I have previously built steelworks all the way over near Limo, and the coal needs to end up at this station, be unloaded, work its way through this system to end up with, alongside iron ore, coming out the other end as steel. Now, I haven't really figured out yet where steel is going to go, but I know at this point I need coal, I need iron ore, and I need to send the steel somewhere. What I'm also going to do with this coal is I'm going to have a big, dirty, ugly coal-fired power station along the river that I want to connect to this, and I'm going to try and maybe pick the most awkward, difficult spot that I can, because that's the fun. And I think that coal power would definitely, they nearly always have direct access to water. Problem is, I haven't left myself very much real estate on this side of the river. Now I could just play it easy and build it somewhere where I've got a nice flat spot. I'm going to see if I can actually squeeze it in. Maybe somewhere over here. And I'm going to step out the land slightly. So in terms of assets, there's a nuclear power station asset which has some interesting bits that I'm going to use. The cool therm, the cooling towers, definitely something that I'd like to use. So you can kind of see the scale of what we're looking for here. I need to bring something out on a little platform. It'd come out on a platform because basically they're probably going to want to get into the deeper end of the water, not just lapping up at the shore. So I think a little narrow platform, this sort of scale. We're not going to have a reactor house, but we'll have some of these other bits and pieces of blocks around there. Got some good chimneys as well. Maybe I won't find these again. There's some good industrial assets that I've also got somewhere. I have way too many mods now. Yeah, I'll find them in a sec. But somewhere along the line, I have some. Here we go, industrial chimneys. Here's some really good chimneys that you can get some nice industrial aesthetics going. So I'm going to have a little go at bringing the land out first. So do that with the terrain tools and try and make the brush size quite small initially, because things can go quite wrong quite quickly. I'm going to try and maybe keep the height of the road. This is sort of fairly smooth. It doesn't matter that I didn't do this when I created the terrain initially, because in this world, in this river valley, anything goes really. It's just a game at the end of the day. And although I'm trying to make it realistic to a point, I don't think I'm necessarily succeeding. I think that's maybe about right. Let's see where we are with those cooling towers. Maybe a little more. Huge, aren't they? This is going to have steam coming out of the top of it. So it's going to look really good. Really like the look of this in the workshop. So I'm actually going to use the square, and you can rotate it and make it bigger using the arrow keys. Just try and get as straight an edge as possible, because I'm going to try and build a retaining wall along the edge. So we'll keep this nice and straight. Not sure how much of a corner we'll get. Very subtle, very clunky. It sort of pixelates at very low resolution, if you know what I mean. You can see how crunchy the edges of the brush are. That's sort of like the pixels that we're dealing with in the world. It's not a very fine-grained resolution. But when you look at, this is one of the Megalomaniac maps. It's not a huge pixel count. And it's a very big map in the world, so it makes sense that this is the sort of crunchiness that you're going to get. I quite like that. I think that's looking good. So we've got a retaining wall asset, and even with collision off, we have collisions, so you do need the build anyway tool if you really want to place it where you want. So I'm going for an upper terrain width of 5, the full length, and I think I've got the full height of the wall as well. Going for something that looks a little bit like the dock edges, so this is quite a modern intervention. We're going to try our best to position it somewhere where the land doesn't leak out. So it's quite one of these very tricky things in Transport Fever. I think I'm just going to build it there with the right click. So that's a mod called Build with Collision. which I think is absolutely essential if you're going to do anything like a sandbox in Transport Fever. And make sure it's close as possible. This is like the cable cars all over again. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. And let's play around with a corner. What can we do with a corner? Maybe we turn off upper terrain for this one. Perfect. Let's see if we can play around with the height. So you kind of have to just judge it a little bit. Not bad. Not bad. I'm not too impressed with the bottom of that, so I don't really think there's probably anything you can do. Try and drag the height. Yeah, we're down to pixels here, really. No, I was not liking it. I might just have to live with that. Okay, giving it a nice coat of asphalt on top. It's a good spot for our power station. It's not seeing things too dissimilar. In reality, this is where it's going to go, so this is where we're going to build it. Careful when you're waving your terrain tools around, especially with the flatten tool. It does some odd graphical things if you don't pay attention to where you're pointing it. Pretty sure I didn't touch that, but what do I know? Okay. So yeah, just double check. All right, assets. Back to our power station. I'm gonna say, in terms of cooling towers, I'm gonna put them. I'm gonna make 3 of them. Something like that. Then let's see what we got else in here. Okay. We need a station for the coal here. So we're already running out of space. So this road is going to have to divert somewhere. So I'm going to use one of the modded train stations. So it is the bulk loading station mod. I'm going to position somewhere around here. So this is where our coal will come in. Let's lay down some roads as well while we're at it. These cooling towers really are huge. We've got some good industry assets. This might be a good turbine hall. I think this could sit nicely here. Got some other useful bits and pieces of buildings in this one. These are good. Quite short what these are meant to be, but not bad, not bad. Need to create a little coal pile. So I've been doing that by not going to be that steep, but what I'm going to do is just bring up an area of the ground. And then smooth it a little bit. And then we have some coal, which unfortunately isn't that dark. And it's a completely different color from the coal asset on the station. Not bad, not bad. Then under another mod, we've got some good material handlers. I can't keep track of these mods by now, but I have a link to my Steam workshop in the description. So these are actually animated. Just make sure they're on the ground. So these are doing interesting, that one isn't. Interesting little bits of work around the coal, unloading into containers. So to work with the I can't create my own mods. Not that skilled. Even anywhere near that. Once these come to life, these are quite good. Just has a little bit of animation into your layouts. We've got these other assets which are meant to be substations for the actual track. And you can see that you would basically arrange it in the right place on the tracks to distribute power to the right place. So I want to actually use this as the substation for my main power distribution. I'm just going to try and, I just like how it looks. I'm not saying anything that's shown here is even remotely accurate. What I'm trying to get at is I need somewhere outside of the power station that I'm going to connect my transformer towers to, my distribution towers rather. And there's the smoke. Let's take a look at that. People did say in the workshop it kind of just mushrooms. So this is to do with basically how, let's have one off, how the particle physics works in Transport Fever now. And before the last updates did dissipate a little better. It's just what we're going to have to live with. I find that quite amusing. We've got another industry asset, which to me is convincing enough that this might be the combustion area where the coal is taken into. Not bad. Got a good chimney height there. It'd be great to get some conveyors running the coal in. So maybe that's something I can find in the workshop. I haven't looked for that specifically, but maybe I'll come back and find that. This is not bad. This is a sort of coal transfer station. Maybe that's out of use now. Maybe this is a bit of a hodgepodge of different industrial eras. Okay, not bad. Just to finish it off, maybe a few more chimneys, a few tanks here and there. Using bits and pieces from the chemical works, industrial add-ons. Not making any sense to anyone who knows what any of this stuff is supposed to look like, but don't know, it's not that far off. I'm convinced that there's some industrial shenanigans going on. Not bad at all. Just feel like we need another one there. God knows what any of this stuff does. We're not bad. So you may ask yourself, well, gone to the trouble of building all this, why didn't they build the coal depot over by the power station? Well, if they did that, then I wouldn't be able to build a train between the two of them. So that's kind of the point. So this is where the challenging bit is going to come in. Connecting the rails to the right places. So our goods tracks are the non-electrified on this side. This is where we ultimately need to get down to. It's a single station. These are extra tracks that we'll add some assets to. So we're going to need to come up with a way of doing a crossover from these tracks. So I'm wondering whether to go up. So what I'll do first, I'll do a switch. And because this is tacked to the side, it's automatically locking in the same height. If I use shift, it's already trying to start climbing because it's trying to find the slope of the embankment. So if I set that to level, this won't cause any issues with the other tracks by being too high as it crosses over. I'm going to do this as a double. Then we could come down underneath and come back up again, but I'm going to go up in this situation. Something like that. It's as steep as we can get it. So keep going up. So this might be a point where we can start bringing it over. With lots of use of the shift key. Bring that down as much as we can. And we say we've got a bridge pillar collision. We've got a bridge pillar collision because we're at quite an acute angle. So what I'm going to do initially is have no bridge elements. So we can position it where we need to. I'll come back and change the bridge afterwards. So now we are descending, descending, descending. This can go back to being different type of bridge. Let's do the green steel. Down, 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 down. To level. Not bad. I think that's pretty good. I'm wondering if we can and change this to the green steel. Perfect. It's just that central section. Doesn't have the pillars. Let's just pull this back a little bit so we can sort out our curves. That's good. And then we'll connect these other tracks up. So now we need to adjust our road. This is the auto route. But these are the main local roads, so this definitely needs to connect all the way along the river. So we're using the country road. This does need to connect into our power station. And have I even left myself anywhere for this to happen? Can we go under there? Maybe we can go under there. Yeah. Yeah, why not? Because I'm going to create an industry attractor that I've done in previous episodes. What does that mean? That basically means going to have a street connection for a demand of 200 on industry. Not going to have a building. What this means is that people are going to come here to go to work. I think this is going to be quite a big employer, so I'm going to place a couple of these down in a few locations using the C key to stop it snapping. What this means is people will start coming here to come to work and commuting. This road needs to be able to carry on the other side of this industry, but the first thing I'm going to do is actually set the railway up so that I can connect back. Don't really want to cross over the passenger tracks if I can help it. So it might be that this bit of railway is actually going to be a dead end, which I don't think is a huge problem. I think that's okay. Not everything has to be a loop. Obviously, there's no mechanic for trains doing a run around to get back at the other end of the wagons in the game. They basically reverse, or they will go on a full loop. Don't really want to mess with the passenger trains getting in the way of their timetable, and there's definitely no space to get a loop in. So I think this is where I'm going to conclude it, but I do want that at the same level. I want them level because the asset wagons only really work on the flat. Got a slight height difference going on there, but that's fine. The asset wagons can sit along here. We need to paint this a little bit more. So a bit of ballast around this area. And we need to smooth the terrain out. Generally. And then we're actually going to spill a bit of coal around the place as well. Just giving it a little bit of variation, a bit of life. Quite subtle. So in terms of constructing this road to get this to connect back to where it needs to be, I think we're going to have to accept the level crossing, which I think is okay along the end of the industrial area. That's fine. Trains will be infrequent. It's whether we can thread the needle to get it back to where we need the road to be. Getting very dense and very congested in this area now. Doesn't want to loop back yet. Make sure we've got our curves on. Okay, now we have the road connection back. So a little messy, but it works. We will have people driving by car to get here to work from various places along the river once it's constructed. In terms of assets for the station, using the vehicle asset builder, which is absolutely essential. Basically takes all of the assets that you have, or your wagons or your locomotives, and enables you to position them as fake static objects. So this is really, I'd say, essential for when you're creating goods yards and industrial areas, that you can start to fill in the little bits of detail on the tracks that unfortunately the game won't let you have separate wagons as trains. They get picked up by locomotives. They all have to be connected from the start. So this is one way of creating that sort of vibe. So it's pretty good with our magic tree brush, which sort of solves everything. I think we've got a decent riverside power station working there. So we have a road connection. We have people who are going to come here to work. We have a train station, and we have a industry that is demanding huge amounts of coal. One thing we need to do is the power lines themselves. We'll come back to that, because I actually need to make a rail connection from our coal port, and we need to make a connection here that's going to enable us to get to the power station and also to the steelworks in the city of Limu, which is located over here. So again, easier said than done. I've absolutely painted myself into a corner, but I like the challenge. So we need to get from this station, this line specifically, that way and this way. I need to get past the town with the nice vineyards that I created with its cargo station. This is an example of what the other towns along the river will look like. So probably it's a good idea now that I'm trying to get my industry working before I build too many, because my tracks are going to be all over the place. So I basically need to get again to this side of the tracks. These weren't designed very well. I don't know who designed these, but the industry tracks are completely on the wrong side, unless the industry is going to be up against the mountains. So we have to have a quiet word with whoever designed these. So because this is snapping to the edge of the road, I need to just bring that away with the shift key and start going for maximum height. Again with the shift key, because otherwise it's going to snap back to the road. So let's pick a bridge style. Okay, no, we're not having a bridge. It said we were having a bridge. Here we go. Okay, let's just let that bridge build, and then we can come back and change the style if we feel like we need to. I need to get over these tracks. Let's see if we can start bringing that down. But we need to get over this track. This track is a short passenger train route, which runs along the river and actually connects the river to the Alpine Valley. So that's quite an interesting route. But definitely need to get over that as well. So actually let's, if I go too high, I'm going to have to stay high over the whole town. It'd be really good to be able to connect here. Or at least go through the cargo station. I think that's probably what I have to do. So let's see. Let's see if this will work. Can this bridge us over? No, it's not enough. I bet if we try to go down, it's not going to be enough either. Oh, yes. It looks like we can tunnel. Excellent. It's not going to be a very fast line. We should be able to come back out. Oh, that's so annoying. It's going to have to go through the cargo station. But this is life. These things happen. So our coal train will run through. So we'll need some crossovers just to make sure they can get past. Trains can get past each other if they are waiting on the opposite tracks. So we've got our crossovers. We'll need to get some signals back in there as well. Okay, so a bit of a dog's dinner, but a single track is actually all that's required. I'm going to have one train. So let's try and loop these together. And then soften out the terrain. Not much softening needed. Okay, let's look at the other direction. So back at the steelworks, the coal station is here. It comes off these tracks, which join the return tracks from the iron ore and the steel. They run alongside the main line passenger tracks. This goes one side of the river, this goes the other. There's an opportunity here for the trains from the container station, which is located at this position, to join the quiet moments in the TGV tracks. So we're not going to send the coal trains up here. They're on the non-electrified part of this track, which runs under the auto route, jumps over, so it's not going to be running through this as yet unspecified city, which I haven't built. Then comes back and joins the tracks along the river here, of course on the wrong side. So I'll tell you what I might do, because it's a short run. No, I am going to cross over. I was thinking maybe I could run the coal trains through the station, but this is going to be really congested with passenger trains. So I'm going to do a crossover at this point. So we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to come off with a switch, holding shift. We're going to keep it level so that we don't interfere with the gradient of the other track. And then start going up as steep as we can. So that's what I mean. So it's flat. Basically at this point, this track is not already starting to get higher than this one, so that it can cross over nicely. Here we go. Let's have a different bridge. That'll do. Then we can either be level or start coming back down at this point. Just hold shift if you start snapping to the tracks. It's basically coming down. We're going to feed in this gap here. Make sure to snap to the ground. Come back a little bit if the curve starts to get a bit excitable. Try to avoid creating weird curves as much as possible. So you might have to do it in pieces to stop it creating little S curves and S bends. This road, we're going to have to reconfigure this. Not going to have enough room there, I don't think. I don't mind the fact that these tracks are not going to be attached directly to the side of the others. It's nice to have a bit of variety. We're not just having basically a 6-tracker. This is what I was worried about. Getting the tracks far enough away from the river edge. Oh, that's tight, but we can do it. I hope this river doesn't flood. A lot of sea defense there. I'm going to move the position of this road completely once we've got the railways in. So let's carry on down the river. Just cut you back a sec. Need to get under the TGV bridge. And then connect into the rightmost track, which is the effective track for the station. So there's a reason why I pulled this track away from this track, is that because this will end up being a town. The station, town, or the village is going to be along here. Didn't really want tracks at this point that I'm going to have to bring down. So I've pulled them off early enough to be able to be separate. So I will double track it. We'll have to see how many coal trains we actually need to run, how many industry actually needs. Now you can see the deliberate mistake I've made, just to see if we're all paying attention. I've connected that too far over. Excellent. At this point, we'll bring off the switch to connect to the yard. It didn't like that one, but it likes that one. Just do it for any other direction. Sometimes that helps. Excellent. So we just need to get this road back. I think ultimately we're going to have to get the road to this position. We can do that without level crossings. No. Where does it actually need to get to? Okay, so we need to get above here, below here. So that's fine. Let's make that a corner rather than a junction. Dealing with the usual curve issues. Okay, literally every time. Every time you bring the curve out. It's going to do this nonsense. Oh, I miss city skylines. Tools were so much easier. I'm kind of avoiding playing the second one at this point because it just seems like everyone's disappointed with it compared to the first. So I might invest if it's in the sale. It's better. So it's going to be important when we build this town that we obviously have a town-based road that's going to connect to the main country road. I see it's being quite a small town. It's almost like as a little bypass. We'll have level crossings to get some buildings around this area. So let's connect this road back up. Yeah, it's really threading the needle, isn't it? We really haven't left ourselves a lot of room. Let's try another bridge. With the shift key and the M and the N. Gosh, it's an expensive operation. Obviously the auto route we're not just going to connect to, so it only comes off specific junctions. Okay, this does look ridiculous. Do you have to sometimes play around with this to get the right result? What's it saying? What's it colliding with that track? God, blimey. It's a bit of a ridiculous bridge. It's just really whether you can accept that it looks realistic or not in your own world. Right now, I'm not really buying this. I think at least some of this bridge is going to have some pillars on it. But it's such a tight angle. Yeah, it's going. I'm going to come over a lot sharper. There we go. Let's make this type of bridge. And then see if we can actually come back. Make this have some pillars. Oh, I don't know. Is that even worse? Might actually making this worse. Maybe it was alright before. Oh, let's go and have a think about this. Okay, this is a little better. It's a little bit of a sharp corner, but I don't really think there's much else we can do with the tools that we have available. So the main thing is that, oh no, that's not going to work. Just have to tweak this track a little bit. The TGV bridge just did not adjust at all. It probably thought, well, that's about okay. Trains will make it through. But we do need a little bit of clearance on the side. How's that? Oh, not much better. Better. Okay, I'll connect this back up. Okay, that's looking a bit better. A little bit more clearance under the bridge. Excellent. So we have connections both ends for the coal. Where it's 2 destinations, the steelworks and the power station. So back at the power station, let's have a look at the power lines. So these are the electric transmission towers. They come from a mod on mods.io. These are really good. There's a selection of the standard larger transmission towers, the intermediate ones, more like telegraph poles, phone lines you could use those for, and then the very much smaller sort of town-based ones. And the aim for this really is just to give a little bit of realism. Just depends whether you want to have another 1,000 or so objects in your model. My computer's not really handling this very well as it stands, but I'm just going to see at what point maybe I can make it blow up, because it's a work computer anyway. And I'm actually in work time, so maybe that'll be my comeuppance. So these are pretty good. Yeah, it starts to add an interesting aspect to it. So I'm basically going to be taking these through to the major towns and the major industrial areas from the power station. I might well have some other power stations, maybe some wind turbines along the way as well. But we'll run these for now. It's quite a fun game because you can't go too low under the trees. And basically any change of direction, the ridge of a hill, you do need to make sure that you pick up to stop the wires going underground. This is probably not the best route, but it kind of looks cool, so it's the route that I'm going to do. Here we go. I'll have a fairly straight run across this valley because we haven't constructed anything in here yet, so that's fairly straightforward. What we'd probably do is come and cut out the trees afterwards that are along the power route. So this is the town of Avignon. So again, at the end, I'm going to use these interesting assets, which are meant to be substations for the railway, but that's going to give me fairly convincing substation for the end of the electricity transmission. So I'll do what I said I was going to do and cut out tree route on the power lines. Oh, that's interesting. Yes, so you have to be very careful not to actually delete the power lines themselves. Sometimes trees and assets are on a different layer. But not this case, so you have to be careful with this one. I'm going to have to sort of judge where that went. Okay, so you have to be very careful with our tree deletion. So it was really the forested areas more than the bushy areas. It's a little more convincing now that you can see that there's the route, the forest route that they keep open to maintain. Yeah, it's a little better. We're going to run a few more of these around. So there we go, quite subtle, but it just adds that extra element of realism to it. Quite like those, quite a good mod. So next we need to design the route and assign the trains for our coal. So this will be the end of the line, and we basically have a single platform that the train is going to come into. So let's just rename these for our own sanity. Power station coal. This is the main track. That's going to be to the platform. Trains run on the left in France, so we'll need to have a crossover to get back onto the main track. And always the same issue. How do we... Probably doesn't like it because of the curve, because of the bridge. So let's get our crossover track working down here somewhere. There we go. It was never a problem, was it? It was fine. So we're on the right hand side coming in, left hand side going out. Great. And we will get some signals. So we've got some signals which we've been using on the rest of the build so far, which is this nice French selection. Not entirely convinced I know what everything means, so I'm just using them as basic signals with posts, and where we have opportunities to do full overhead signals with gantries, I'm doing that as well to make sure that I'm not completely crowding the railways out with the trees and bushes. Gone a little mad there. Maintain that as I go through. Excellent. We'll drop a couple more in. At the switch, of course, you need a signal at that point from the switch. That point, that point. I'm dropping in here and there. I'm going to come back and do gantry signals on most of this, because we've already got signals set up for the passenger trains, but I would like some gantries as well. So where we've got two tracks, just going to make the basic signaling. I realise there's a mod called AutoSig, but I'm too stupid to use that. I find myself having to go back and delete so much of what I've created by the end of it. Okay, that's our crossover. So no signals inside of that. This is our route to the power station. Okay, so we'll make sure we don't have any one-way signals on this, or signals along it, because there's going to be one train essentially that runs, and it's coming off this platform. So I'm going to have a signal at this point. Do we have any right-handed ones? Yes, we do. Just to check the line is clear before it goes on the single track. It comes over onto the left-hand side and we'll pass that signal. we will have additional signals at this point to just break that block down. We'll have gantries everywhere else though. So this comes through. Then we have the train that's running to the steelworks. Will be running in this direction. So that comes off the coal platform on this side. It will come back in on the left-hand track. So we need a crossover to get back on the right line. We'll just signal these up along the line as well. Over at the steelworks as well, making sure we've got sufficient signaling to allow multiple trains to be running at once. So in terms of our coal station, it is here. So we need crossover from the left-hand track to get over to that point. So these one-way signals basically forcing the loop operation to be in effect. So we don't want trains coming back this way. These are all one-way tracks essentially. Okay, gonna have to come back and look at this in further detail when we look at iron ore and the steel. But I think we're in a position where we can start setting the route up. So we're going to create a new line. I'm going to call it coal to steelworks, so I can find it again. We're going to click this station. Make sure we click on the train element, not the cargo. And then simply go to the steelworks and the coal station. And we'll see what the route looks like. Excellent. So it's picked up on the signals that, because these are one-way signals, there's no coming back. So you do have to go around the loop, which is the behavior that I wanted it to do. It is, however, running through the iron ore station. And sort of at the back, which I don't necessarily want, so I will add some of the signals at the back end that I placed. So I can't find that, so I need to find what's causing that problem. So we don't want to run on these tracks because these are full of assets. So it's along these tracks that we want to run. So I'm going to put some more signals down at this point. Go back to our line and add this. Still not finding that one. So we'll do a little further investigation. Probably because we don't have a crossover back from the coal station. That's right. So we're on the right hand track, because this is not a double switch. So that should put us back in to the right line. No, it still hasn't. Sometimes just taking out the offending elements might do the job. Okay, so it's worked out that piece. Then this piece, it's fine. It's just getting back onto that main line. So I think that's because we don't have a crossover track back onto the main line, and that might just be a case of this double switch. It is. So this double switch was the fact that it wasn't a double switch means that we can come back over from the right to the left-hand track and get back to the coal station. And let's just see, is it doing a there and back? It is doing a there and back. That's fine, so it will just reverse. So let's set the other one up, which is coal to power station. So again, we're going to pick our single platform coaling station. So we're going to have to timetable these so they're not interfering with each other. Then going to pick the station outside of the power station coal demand. And it is assumed that we are going to do this by road. So we have to go back and make sure that we have the rails terminal selected, because these stations have a option of the vehicle terminal, which is platform 2, or the rail terminal, which is platform 1. So that's looking good. It's on the double tracks where it's able to be. Then it goes single track through this cargo station and onto the single track line to the coal terminal. Excellent. So let's have a look at what trains that we can start running to operate this line. So I'm using diesel locomotives on the goods lines for the coal, because we don't have electrification. And I quite like the CC 72000s. I quite like the design of the nose on these trains. I think they're quite cute. I'm going to try one of these to start with. I'm going to get some cargo and I'm going to filter it by coal. And it's the DB cargo Fallons 1-to-1, which I've been using for the assets. So we've got 320 meters limit on these trains. So we're going to do a mix of graffitis, graffiti 2s, to try and give it a little bit of variation. Probably won't go all the way up to 320. Let's say around the 300 mark. I love long trains. So let's see if this works. So we're going to buy this and run this on the power station line to begin with. Let's see how this runs. So unpause the game. Right, 2 frames per second until it actually settles down. So in terms of the timetable, I'm not quite sure how long this is going to take to do this route. So I'm going to time it as soon as it leaves the coal station. And then we can make sure that we can arrange this not to be interfering with the coal train that's leaving from the same platform that goes to the steelworks. These stations are really good, really convincing. So leaving that, let's say, call that 51 minutes. Sounds good. Bit I've been waiting for, to be honest. Just letting things run. People going back and forth on the road, going to their new place of work. Some good metal on metal sounds. Sound really good. Haven't organised the cargo trains along this line yet, but we will do. They're just basically going to feed between Lima and Avignon to pick up bits and pieces of supply and demand along these small villages and towns. So this isn't the best solution that the coal train is going to run through here, but this is the best I could do with the infrastructure that I pinned myself into. Okay, let's pick this up at the power station. So it's approaching to the station now. I would comfortably say that that's arriving into the station at 57 minutes. So it's a 6-minute journey, more or less, between the power station and the coal station. So I'm going to hold that train there for now. We're going to work out the timing on the other train at the other end. This is a train for the steelworks, emerging from our little train depot. And we already have coal waiting for the power station train because we've established that route nicely. I'll probably wait till we run the steelworks train for the first time before it establishes the coal supply for that. So the chain is working. The coal industry that's supplying has found the route for the coal industry that is demanding. So you can see on consumers where the coal wants to go. It hasn't picked up the power station yet. Might be worth just double checking that I have built something that demands coal and turns it into steel. It was quite a while ago that I constructed this. No, I just made the assets. I hadn't created any industries. That's good. No wonder the coal's not being demanded. So we should go ahead and do that. Always worth double checking that you have that set up. So for this, I basically want almost a traditional steel manufacturing. I want the steel to be picked up from this point so we can pick up from these trucks here. So the industry is going to be based around where this truck station is. So we're going to have an industry that accepts 2 inputs and creates 1 output. So freestyle industry 3. I'm going to have a lot of employees. I'm going to set it to 160 demand. So the first input is going to be coal, and we need X1 amount. Then we need iron ore. Gone past it already. We'll have that as X1. Cargo C, which is the output, will be steel. And I'll make this stockpile quite big. Well, not that big. So I do need to fit it into that space. Actually, that's way too big. Something that's going to be able to be picked up from the road. So here we go. Here is our actual industry. It's picked up from the road and the station. So what we need to do before we run the coal train itself, so we need to create a truck route that takes the coal over to that industry that's picked up from this station. So we need to go there to there. That's it. Just runs along the roads. But we'll also need the same thing from the iron ore pickup. So this will be Steelworks iron ore truck. And this will run from the road terminal to same destination. The iron ore and the coal both get taken here. The industry I've just placed creates the steel. This station picks the steel up. So that's good. So that is set up. But we do need a road terminal to be able to purchase some trucks. I don't really want to purchase the trucks in the town and have them take hours to actually get over here. I'm going to buy some cargo vehicles that will take coal to begin with. So I quite like these dump trucks. So I'm going to buy 10 of those initially. And I'm going to set them on coal to the power station, which I believe was our route. Steelworks coal truck, rather. That's what I wanted to do. And then I will buy vehicles suitable for iron ore. Same dump trucks. I might do something a little different just to make it a little more interesting. And they will be Steelworks iron ore truck. So they will start emerging. On the timetable mod, I'm just going to set up so that these auto unbunch, they don't all get stuck behind each other. So that will just keep them separate. Let's go back and see if where our coal train is for we can time it departing. So it's still coming out. So what will happen is this should now be picked up. Yes, so the industry I've created, which I haven't helpfully named particularly well, is now picked up as a consumer because I've created those truck lines that link the coal station and the steel station. So coal will start getting delivered from here, dropped at this station, and then picked up by this train. You can see they've already shipped 6 units of that so far. So again, we're going to check the timetable of when the train actually leaves. It's 01:30. And we'll pick it up on the other end. And arriving into the Steelworks. Bit of a longer route, this one. It's going to be, we could call it 9 minutes 30. So we'll call that an 8-minute route compared to the 6-minute for the power station run. So we'll take these timings and we will go and plug them into a timetable and work out how we can arrange this without both these trains interfering with the other one If you're familiar with how I've been doing the timetabling in Transport Fever 2, I have a fake day-night cycle that starts at the Transport Fever timetable mod 10 minutes and runs through to 57 minutes 30, because that's on a 60-minute cycle, which equates to 4 AM start, finishing at 11. Between these times, trains are in their depots, in their stations, having their maintenance done, so they are not running. So I need to avoid the Limu area around these two times, because this is where the cargo train that uses the TGV lines departs Limu. So I mustn't interfere with that, because if I interfere with that, I interfere with the running of the TGV trains, and everything starts to go very wrong. So from the timings, the Steelworks train takes 8 minutes, and the power station train takes 6 minutes. So in this attempt at creating a timetable, if we start the Steelworks train at the Steelworks, it will take 8 minutes to get to the coal terminal. The power station train is approaching from the power station, gets to the coal terminal 6 minutes earlier. So we could effectively have 2 minute gap between those two. And if we run that through, the problem is train 1 is a little bit too close to these times where the cargo train is in Limu. So what we will do is, instead of train 1 leaving from the Steelworks then going to the coal terminal, we will flip it. So train 1 goes from the coal terminal to the Steelworks. That's its first run of the day. Train 2 runs from the power station to the coal terminal, and they never interfere with each other. And train 1 never interferes with the running of the cargo train from Limu. So this timetable is efficient, and hopefully we'll make sure that we get all the coal transferred that we need to transfer. So back on the timetable mod, we will select the line. So we'll do coal to Steelworks first to make sure that's indicated. We will set the timetable to arrival departure mode. And the first one we have is from the coal port at 10 o'clock. So we set our departure time for 10. Always check that it comes up in this part. And we'll set our arrival time for 09:30. What that means is, as long as it gets there before 9:30, it will run as normal. So you see, that hasn't gone through. So you do have to play around with the timetable mod to make sure these numbers do get through to there. Then it should arrive at the Steelworks at 18 minutes. So you then have to do arrival departure and add in the same way. So departure is 18 minutes, rather. Our arrival 17 minutes 30, because we measured it by departure times, if you recall, when we were measuring the times. So we need to run this through for both trains for all of their stops. So this basically picks up the routing from Coalport to Steelworks to Coalport to Steelworks, Coalport to Steelworks, until the sequence starts again. I'll just make sure I do this for both trains. So now both trains are set up. They will be allowed to run. They're going to be out of sync because they are not in the right position for the times that I've set them to be. So they will take a little while to get back into their timetable, but that should be done within the 60-minute cycle. So for example, train 33, which is on the coal to the power station line, go to the line, go to coal power station. We should be leaving the power station at 10 o'clock. So actually, maybe this one's going to be okay. This one will be fine. It's probably the Steelworks train, because it's at the coal port and not the Steelworks where we left it. But that's fine, everything will get back in sync. So we'll let that run. And I think I'll leave it here for now. We'll come back next time we have a lot more to do on this map, and thanks for joining me, and hope you can join me again next time.